Welcome, Rob. It's good to have you, Christine. And today we're doing a Coherence 2025 conversation. I brought you guys into Coherence 2025, and now you're co-stewarding with me. So it's been really cool to kind of see Christine, you coming in and helping out with us with Coherence 2025, us trying to figure out exactly what Coherence 2025 is for each other and for the larger group that's out there. And Rob, you're kind of taking more of the project highlight, where we're kind of highlighting and talking about different projects within the collaborative technology realm that are moving us towards regenerative outcomes. And so really, for those of you that are just kind of tuning in as your first Coherence 2025 conversation and you're listening to this, we have been coming together to find people in wise AI, in collaborative technology, and really those that are trying to build technology solutions that are helping us to create regenerative outcomes for people, planets, and future generations. And so there's a lot of really awesome, juicy things happening. And I feel like I explain what Coherence 2025 is a little differently every time I get on one of these conversations. But I would love to hear from the two of you why you came into Coherence 2025 and what your thoughts are on what it is for yourself, because I think it changes per person that's coming into this. Really, we have our own reasons for joining this space and being a part of the conversations. So Rob, do you want to maybe go first, and then Christine, since you're off mute?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think for me, right, coherence and coming in here for me really is, based on this, the idea that it's really vital for everyone who's working in this, regenerative movement or new earth movement or whatever we want to call it. I think it's vital for all of us to be working together and to be collaborating and really practically figuring out how we can do that, because right, we have a shared vision and a shared purpose, but we're not like in a power structure. We're not in a position of power really. From our sort of systemic standpoint, right? As far as like the current systemic wealth, and so I think that the power that we have, right, is that we want to work together. The more of us that are here that are able to come together, that are able to collaborate, right? I think that's where the shift is gonna happen. And so I see so many amazing projects and amazing people, and I think that the biggest challenge is one of coordination, is what I see. Not one of commitment or desire or intention, but just one of coordination. And so I think that's that's surmountable, but we need we need projects like Coherence, and we need to like continually, I think, be figuring out how it is that we can we can really work together to create the impact we want to create.
Beautiful. Thanks, Rob. And Christine, what brought you into the code? I know I brought you, invited both you and Chris and Rob, but
Yeah.
what made you want to linger and stay and be a part of it?
Yeah, I have been able to connect with some really interesting people, Bart, Victor, Merlin, Alex, like all of the core stewards so far have added something for me. And yesterday I had a great chat with Victor and Bart about the AI strategy of what we're going to be doing with all of these calls. And we managed to go fairly deep into different areas, finishing up on this concept of like, could we have nature at the table as like a voice to help create coherence with like within the actual living systems that we're a part of. So I think I just love to be inspired, and I just love to explore all of these new potentials that are here in this network. That's the core driver for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so now that we kind of got why we're here, I would love to just kind of see if we can open up the conversation, share a little bit about each of the organizations that we're representing, because I know we're representing multiple projects here and multiple organizations as this space opens up. And so if we can share just a little bit about our work, and then let's see, I'd love to just be creative and just see what are the possibilities for collaboration. I mean, Rob, you had mentioned that's one of your reasons for being here. Christine, you're meeting wonderful people and getting to know folks in order to be able to collaborate as well. So yeah, I would just love to be kind of open and curious. I mean, it's not like we're going to create our collaborative partnerships during this call, but I would love to just open it up for ourselves to explore that, and for others that are listening to this to see maybe some of the ways that they might even come into this and say, oh, I would love to work with Christine and Rob and Josh on maybe this, or maybe just Christine with one of your projects, right? But let's give an idea for others to come into this space as well and see how they might be able to collaborate with the projects that we're operating in. So yeah, maybe Christine, you can start, share organizations that you're working with, and then Rob, and then I'll share a little bit about what we're working on.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. So I'm here primarily through my connection with Rob with Holistic Systems Co-op. I'll let him speak about that in detail. And we formed a collaboration with another group called Roots Co-op, which is like our partnership in Circletrust. And so within that small group, we're developing tool set and a platform and other resources to support community economies and other forms of legal financial structure that works for bespoke community, that communities can design their own version of what is needed using a base level set of functionalities and features that we have. And the idea is that communities will be co-stewarding with us. So it's not just a service. It's not like we're selling a product and then moving on. The idea is that we want to keep co-building and have relationship with any of the users of our tools. So that's the mindset behind it. And there's a lot more detail we can go in there, especially around Roots Co-op as well. I'm also involved with an organization called Quorum One and the Q1 Network, which is, they're sort of at the moment outside of this core group of regen connected businesses that I've seen coming together here. But I know that, say, like the founder of Quorum One is connected with Hendrik, and also Karsten mentioned a connection with Quorum One the other day. So maybe they will come in separately. So I'm there in the network experience team and working on engagement for members to be coming in and onboarding to the new platform, and also building up comms, the wiki, the handbook, a whole range of things there. Really excited about the possibilities of collaboration in that network, because it's already impressive to see the people that have invested in that organization and then also are wanting to come in and build the projects there. So there's a really interesting tool set there that is distinct from, say, Circletrust tool set. So for me, like, they do sit parallel and differently in this ecosystem. And what else could I mention? There's a few other little things bubbling away in my world, but nothing I would say is super solid right now. But I have some really creative people around me, and I'm just really staying open to what happens next.
Right on. Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I have gotten to know Hendrik more the last year or so, that working with I worked with him on Quorum 1. It was before he had gotten into Quorum 1. But it was also cool to talk to Esteban and who's the other co-founder of Quorum 1?
Hank?
Hank, yeah. I got to talk with them a couple times with a potential project, collaborative project. And so they do feel like they're very much in the same space and in the same ecosystem that we're talking about here. So it'd be cool to kind of see if and how they come in for conversations and maybe inviting them into the conversations. They are, I think Hank and Esteban are someone that I'm intrigued to talk to as a part of a project within the Coherence 2025 as well. So
I could really see that
yeah.
actually. I think you would gel well with like Esteban and some of the other guys there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rob, please share more about holistic systems. Maybe even also share a little bit of how you and Christine are working together and how you and Christine are working on both Circletrust and holistic systems together and the dynamic there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I'm definitely here representing Circletrust and Holistic Systems Cooperative. I mean, I guess I can, start with the HSC part and then move to Circletrust. Yeah, so Holistic Systems Cooperative is a type of community economy. It's a resource pooling and value exchange cooperative or collective for a particular group of people, for independent working professionals, entrepreneurs, freelancers, so individuals. And really, the base idea is that all of these these people who are really working as separate entities from each other and are essentially competing against each other for their income, for their basic survival needs, to be able to flip that script and join together and pool their resources and develop different methods of value exchange and value sharing, and really opening that up to all the different types of value, all the eight different types of capital, if you will. And by doing so, right, create a not only a collective where there's more stability and more strength for everybody, but also be able to create different transformative methods of economic systems. So really like kind of an alternative or complementary economy. In a lot of ways working in non-monetary exchange. So so basically that that was started, and Christine came on, and we've been working on that for a long time now, and building that up. And part of the idea there was that it was never meant to be just one community, but like a node in a network of communities. So that way, each community really maintains its level of trust and relationship, but then is able to scale and exchange with other different communities, and that really expands the level of value that's available for everybody. So the part of that is the community development, and part of that is the actual platform to facilitate that. And so Christine and I then met, the folks at Roots Cooperative, Todd Youngblood and Mike Rabin and Mescal and some other folks, and we felt like we were building kind of the same thing, and that our values were really aligned. So we decided to just join together. And so Circletrust is really the creator of the tool, the creator of kind of the platform that is then usable and transferable to any different type of community. So whether that's land-based and location-based, whether that's professionals, whether that's purpose-based, faith-based communities, and to me it's the same basic idea, which is let's take a group of people that are gathered around kind of shared purpose, and say, how can we activate and unleash and synergize all the resources that we already have here, rather than needing having a group come together and saying, okay, now we've got to go and find external funding. Not to say that that's, still not an option, but to say that's not the only option, that we have a tremendous amount of value in what's already here. And so it's just then a matter of, and this is, I think, the service that, we're providing, then it's just a matter of how do we facilitate, the flow of all that value and the awareness of it and the recognition of it and the rewarding of it and the moving of it to where it's of most benefit. And so, so really, in that sense, Circletrust and Holistic Systems, are operating the same way. Circletrust is really, the builder of the, kind of the framework and the platform, and then Holistic Systems is kind of, at this point is like node number 0. So yeah, I think that's, that's how I would introduce, the projects. Yeah, so thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, this is, and we've gotten to chat before this, obviously, and have had our conversations. So we kind of have an idea of each other's work in context. To share a little bit about our work at RegenBEE and Seeds of Dow and partnerships that we've come to form to create and collaborate with one another within the RegenBEE Association. For the audience to kind of understand the dynamic that we have been building, I think it's very similar to a lot of the work that you've been doing, and it's probably in different ways, and we probably need to find interoperability and be able to work with one another on these projects, but also we need to see, especially since we're so young, to be able to see where each of these organizations kind of go and create, right? Because if we stifle each other's creation in the vision that we have for one another, for our own visions, and then, it can be, it's a very early nursery time for both of our organizations or the collaborative projects that we're working on. And so we want to see those thrive and to see where we can work together as we come into a more mature growth area for organizations. So I think for RegenBEE, I'll start there and then kind of weave in the 3 organizations that are coming to build this association that we're calling RegenBEE. It's an acronym, RegenBEE is. So it's regenerative. We've named it the Regenerative Business Economics Ecosystem, but as we were doing so, we also kind of felt like it was not the full name of it, right? And so we also kind of named it the Regenerative Business Economics Ecosystem, and you could also say Regenerative Bioregional Economics Ecosystem. So you can interchange those 2 acronyms. And the reason why we kind of did this is because in a lot of ways we've been working towards having an ecosystem where businesses share and pool resources together and fill this understand reciprocity and build out this culture of reciprocity within business and move that towards regenerative outcomes for economics and for different new economies. And we kind of see a lot of the work that you're doing, Rob, and you're doing, Christine, and all the different organizations that we're being involved in. We're seeing it as like there's a book called The Dispossessed. It's a older book that's like I would say it's like in the solar punk range, right? And it's about a few worlds that are doing have been coming together and learning that so they're all interconnected. But there's this one moon that's been kind of doing their own thing, and they're a bunch of anarchists, and so they're kind of dispossessed in a way from the rest of society. And I'm looking at our current economy, and I'm noticing that a lot of us are dispossessed in our current economy, meaning like we don't really belong in the work that's happening in the current business as usual models. And the economic model that we're seeing is like the hospice that we're needing to see it die off gradually and a new economic reign kind of come in. And I see a lot of the work that we're doing in these spaces as that. So what we have been building together within these three organizations, coming together, and we're inviting others as well to come take part in this association, is how there's a bunch of work that's already being done to help us transition towards that new economy that's going to replace this current extractive one. How do we make it so easy for us to collaborate with one another within different realms of business? We're using the permaculture flower as kind of our basis for realms at this point in different areas that we can work in. So if you're familiar with the permaculture flower, but then we're also using bioregionally. We're focused on how do bioregions organize to formalize economic shifts and change. And so that's what RegenBEE is essentially. It's about making it really easy for collaborative ecosystems to come together, pull resources, and then be able to create or protect each other in what we call a closed commons or a fair share commons model. And so we have three partners that are kind of working at this right now. First, it's my business, Seeds of Dow, and then there's Evolute 6 and Caraco. And each of us are kind of playing different roles within that. One is, mine's more of like the business growth and development, helping organizations to kind of find the right resources to grow regenerative businesses or have businesses that are creating regenerative outcomes. Evolute 6 is kind of that same realm, but they're also doing a lot of governance work. And so they're one of the founders of the Fair Share Commons model, which means they're helping people create closed systems or closed commons that are protected. And then finally, we have we know that there's going to be some technology things that we need to see happen, and we have a technology partner that's helping us to build platform or build some of the technology pieces that we need to make some of these collaborative outcome or collaborative projects come together and work more seamlessly together. So that's RegenBEE. It's a little bit about what we're working on. And now I guess that we've explained each other's organizations and collaborations, I would love to just dive into maybe some of the areas or hotspots that you potentially see, and just let's have an open conversation on like ways that we could possibly dive in and collaborate, build interoperability, or figure out ways that we can work together on certain pieces of what we're trying to accomplish.
I have thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone. And yeah, thank you for explaining that. Joshua, that's great. I don't know, it just brought in a question. It feels like, and I think you sort of partially explained it, but you said part of RegenBEE was really about how to make it so easy for all of us to collaborate with each other. So then the question popped in. I was so curious, like, okay, how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, we have it's probably too long to explain in this smaller conversation that we have, and we can definitely have more conversations to dive into different pieces. But to share where we're at in our own process is we're working on an experimental incubation program where we're not incubating one-off businesses in an incubation that you would normally see, like a business incubator, but we're an ecosystem incubator of sorts. And so the ways that we're going about this is bringing in a certain stakeholder that is usually like a network of networks folks. We call them ecosystem propagators within our ecosystem, right? And our whole goal is to find as many ecosystem propagators as we can, bring them in and bring them together, but within a certain realm or bioregion, like a vertical, you could say like an industry vertical is mostly what you'd see. Like, let's just take the fiber industry or regenerative agriculture, right? And you get 2 or 3 ecosystem propagators, and they work together to find to dive deeply into their ecosystem, understand and gather for their ecosystem, to gather stakeholders. So it's multi-stakeholder led and understood. And we understand all stakeholders that are at play in, let's say, the fiber industry or regenerative fiber, right? And then we take a route of understanding the capital flows and structures. So all capitals that you had mentioned, right? Understanding and incubating. Understanding is the first step to it, and then designing for that ecosystem with those ecosystem propagators that are already doing a lot of the work to gather and organize, but they're probably siloed in some way or working in parallel. And our job is to see ways that we can facilitate collaboration between those three ecosystem propagators within their space, help them to work together, and then help them to work alongside or laterally into another ecosystem. Let's just take the regenerative agriculture ecosystem, for example, right? To kind of work with three other propagators within that space and to see ways that they can move and operate together. So that's the experimental process that we're kind of going through, and we're starting with our first three what we're calling circles within that ecosystem. We have a tools and technology ecosystem propagator working circle. We have a natural. We have the and nature systems kind of ecosystem that we're propagating a circle with right now, and then we have the business and economics realm or circle, and we're propagating. We have three or four propagators in that space, and so we're trying to build out those three circles right now in this experimental incubator. And then there's technology that we're trying to create that tracks reciprocity and different ways of showing the collaborative nature and how things are actually naturally working between those three to begin with, and then we're building out from there. That gives you at least a little bit. There's a lot to dive in.
Yeah. No, there's a lot there. I think that's a great answer. Yeah, I mean, it's such like a fascinating question, so sort of how to do that, right? And that's a really great answer. So I think, and I think you explained that really well. And I'm like, it's helpful for me. It's like, oh, okay, this is a way to, an approach to do this thing that we want to do. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's nice to just kind of hear that from you. Oh.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
I'm curious a little bit. So you're bringing people together, and you're just feeling that whoever shows up, like at the right time, is the right connection, like to make with each other, or do you feel like there's some other strategy where you're looking to foster certain types of relationships? In like when you're saying each person has three contacts and then they work together, is there a way of facilitating people to find those contacts and understand the value of each contact?
Yeah, there is, and so we're trying to use as many natural patterns that we see existing within the current structure in any given arena. Right now, one of our first activators in the land and nature stewardship kind of realm is the Watershed Unity Network. And you were on the think tank, so you got to kind of see the activation of her circles, right? And so we have to understand that we have natural social circles, and so we're using those, valuing those. And so she's actually picked her 2 to 3 other ecosystem propagators that she can work within the Watershed Unity Network. And it also kind of defines what bioregions we're going to start with, because there's already network, there's already on the ground things happening that she's working in Africa and in California and in different areas, right? And so we decided to go with that natural network first, and then build on top of that. But we're focusing, so it's a yes and it's the network of the actual propagator that we choose to work with and a relationship with them. And then it's also the natural patterns that and that we're recognizing within how we're engaging with the environment within regenerative work. So we picked the permaculture flower for one of those natural patterns that we see, realms that we're working in. And then bioregionally, we saw that as another pattern that we're using to organize this around. So those three, kind of the social, the natural landscape of bioregions, and then the realms that humans are actually existing and working in to do regenerative work, is that kind of third piece that we're organizing around. Does that answer the question? I'm not sure if I went off.
Yeah, that does. It gives a snapshot of where you're at now with it, and like that you've got this vision of how it could keep evolving. Sounds smart to work with where people are at now and bring in their own networks. But then with the idea, I imagine, to look at, like, once multiple people have done that, then there's like another layer of connections possible, and then it will still become more rich.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're noticing it gets really rich really quick as we invite others into it. Just with Eliza, it's kind of been that way. So, and I have a question to kind of turn back on you guys as well, because you mentioned resource pooling, and it's something that we are really leading towards as well. Is like, and I'm curious to know, like, how are you guys going about bringing people together to then do the resource pooling, and what's the dynamic of finding the right people for your ecosystem as well?
Yeah, I can share, and then Christine can jump in. It's a good question. Yeah, so the question, sounds like, right, is how are we finding people? I think so the term that we're using is community economy, and to me it is about, rather than just sort of saying, hey, let's everybody in the world sort of like, come together and utilize these economic mechanisms. It's okay. How do we have communities? There's groups of people that are already like very complementary or very, synergistic, or already, are centered around, certain purpose, or certainly a certain location, right? So anybody, right? You have a town or a village. I think there's already natural patterns there. And so to then just go in and sort of bring the resource sharing tools and frameworks to those communities, to me seems like a great method to do that, right? And so, for example, like Holistic Systems Cooperative, right? You say, okay, well, like entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and independent, professionals, like these are folks who who can really kind of complement and help each other. They have a lot of value for each other. So really you just then say, okay, like where are we finding these particular people? And since we know who they are, right, then it's easier to kind of target those folks and say, hey, let's join together in a community, and then let's figure out how, like it's really incentivizing then those communities to share and pool resources rather than cut them off from each other. And I think that that's such a natural thing that if we are able to facilitate it well, then it's going to hopefully that will be able to create kind of the transition from our current extractive economy to a more regenerative and collaborative one. So those are my thoughts on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Christine?
Yeah. Like, we have had bioregionalism on the horizon for the work that we're doing in Circletrust. Todd, our other collaborator, is connected into BioFi and has been for quite a while, and he also has some other amazing connections, like with Tibet and other people who are deep into that collaborative space. So we haven't been building specifically for bioregional, like bioregion wide connecting. But there's no reason why it couldn't work on that level. as well. I think something interesting that has come up lately is a contact of mine who is working in the disaster response space, who they're working on some really like grassroots tools to help organize and coordinate volunteers and like emergency response in North Carolina, like after the hurricane. Then they also had some people like trying out new things in Los Angeles after the fires. So these are like really immediate response type, grassroots response type orgs that are emerging to meet these needs. And I've been meeting with a fellow called Daniel Lindenberger, and he came to our Circletrust meeting last week. And he's interested in our tool set as a means of creating resilience and also creating that community economy sense pre disaster, but also then looking at what you can do during that type of emergency situation with having these really solid tools and capacities there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I bring that in because I think there's so many different layers that what we're building could come in and how it could filter in and how people could actually end up using it. I think like sometimes there's this idea that we just look at an area and we think, how do we coordinate everything in that area to be under this umbrella or something like that? Like that's sort of the easy way of thinking about it. But then when you look at like on the ground use cases of like say that disaster response scenario, like that's a very obvious way that the tool could come through and suddenly meet a need and find like a use case there quite quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really one of the things that I'm really curious about working and collaborating with Circletrust and Holistic Systems on is figuring out, you know, for example, like there's certain challenges that each of these organizations are kind of going through, or communities or ecosystems, and figuring out, you know, having the tool set to kind of help them solve their problems in those different spaces. It reminds me of like an example. I'm trying to organize, or I'm trying to be involved in the organization of my local bioregional work that's happening here in Bogota. There's a lot of really cool things happening. There's like guerrilla gardening projects going on all the time. There's like watershed restoration happening here. But I was just noticing, like I was sitting in on this meeting, and I was recognizing they needed the nonprofits and the organizations that are doing work within this space to do regen or restorative work for the city are not communicating really well with one another, but they're also not communicating really well with the government that's giving them, like the local mayors trying to give them money for their projects as long as they can highlight stuff. But they're having a hard time showcasing and highlighting their work collaboratively and showing like, oh, these three projects are working together and these things are actually transforming, but we can't showcase those, right? I was thinking, well, they really just need high-low, this tool, to be able to collaborate with one another and showcase these things, and a couple, you know, governance structures. And so, like, if you maybe there's a possibility for working with finding tools. If that's like your piece that you're working on with Circletrust is finding all the tool sets that would help them to solve collaborative challenges. And what we're working on is more like incubation, and our end goal is to help them to establish governance structure, right? So they go through our incubation process. It's about taking them through a process that helps them gather each other and understand the challenges and work through. But we're not necessarily the ones trying to find the tool sets for them to work through. We're trying to get them to a place where they're actually self-governing and giving them the opportunity to then, so the self-governing piece setting up their structuring to be a fair share commons, or to organize themselves as a closed commons that can protect themselves from bad actors or immature actors that might take advantage of the resources that they built, and then help them share those resources. That's kind of like, so we're trying to get them through this incubation process to get them to that end goal. But all of the stuff to get them towards the end goal, the tools and all those other pieces, like, we're not even thinking about that at this point, right? In a lot of ways. I mean, we're thinking about all the different tools that are out there and trying to bring them to it. But I think there needs to be a lot of work in like having tool sets for that, right? And for solving unique problems that we're seeing in bioregions, or we're seeing in certain industry or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Christine.
Oh no, I was just thinking, I would love to run out. We have some core documents that have our full feature set and like features and functions list. And I've done this for a few other people who have come in to inquire about what we're doing, running that against some of your documents, say in Claude, and then looking for like the synergies and the overlap and the possibilities, and like framing it for your use case, and then maybe presenting that back to you. So I could do that if that's of use for you.
That sounds like it would be really fun. So you're using like AI, so taking some of our documents, taking your documents, using AI cool. Yeah, I would love to explore that. That could definitely be a cool next step for us.
Yeah, I think I like that, because I think that sort of speaks, in a sense to, what was popping in for me, right? Which is how do we, this question, how do we utilize everything that, that each of us, right, in this example, are building and creating, and not, right, like you said it before, like how do we not sort of quash our creativity and what we're coming up with, but also utilize what others are creating as well, right? So, the idea, I think, with of like a Circletrust, is that it can, ideally it can be a little bit of a kind of a plug and play for a community, right? And so, part of that is like, governance. Part of that is, ownership models. Part of that is, financial and legal and, wrappers. So it is a question of where do we, where are we, sort of creating that? And you're saying, oh, okay, well, like RegenBEE is also developing like this model for, for governance and for co-ownership. So, this is more just kind of a question, of like, how are we developing the same, kind of the same pieces, and is it redundant, or does it make sense at this point for us to be developing these things, and then, at a certain point to be looking at them and saying, okay, where can we, what makes sense as far as combining these in a way with that then we have, like, no matter, sort of who's created it, then we have like something that really works well. Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that well, but I think that's kind of the idea, right? And so it's like, it really sounds like what Christine is talking about is saying, okay, well, these are the things that we're looking to do. These are the requirements. And then, how do we kind of take what you've got and take what we've got and, put it together.
Yeah. I just got off are you guys familiar with what's the name? I'm trying to think of the name, and my brain's giving out on me. Let's see. What is the name of the group? Meta Community. Have you heard of the Meta Community? Or Alelo?
I've seen him in Coherent.
Yeah, so they're in the Coherence. Ruben's in the Coherence. Victor's been speaking with them, and they brought me in. This is one of the ways that I've been kind of doing my networking lately, is like to bring people into the incubation process. Is I just have been involving myself in these collaborative communities that are multiple communities working together, and they've been asking the same question. We're right at that kind of point. There's like 7 community folks in this group, right? And I was invited just to do, can we figure out a shared OKR system? So I was basically doing what we've been doing for Coherence 2025, right? For this meta coherence community. And it was my first time stepping in there, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's like probably 6 or 7 other folks doing almost exactly what RegenBEE is doing. And and I was like, when you see a red Cadillac or something, or you purchase a certain vehicle like a Honda, and then all of a sudden you see that Honda everywhere. It's like that. Like I feel like just everybody's coming out of the woodworks and then it's like, so that question's coming up. And what I'm noticing, like a pattern, is some people are really early and still kind of visioning what they're creating. And we can't stifle that vision, or else we would actually lose anything that would possibly be created there. Because it's a new baby. It's like smothering a baby in its sleep right before, that sounds horrible. But it's like that's the way I feel. Like, how could we do that to a really early stage thought that they're trying to incubate and trying to nurture? And we can't do that, I think, with any, like, so for you and for the organizations that we brought to the table, Quorum One's a little bit further ahead, probably in investments, capital, and things that they've created, maybe a little newer in the space that we're kind of operating in here, right? And so they're still new in some ways and still older and more mature. But the thing is we shouldn't stifle any of our own creativity, I think, to a certain point. And then we also got to recognize when we are creating the same thing, and maybe it's just like another limb to the baby that we actually birthed together. We didn't realize that we were birthed the same thing. So there's like this weird dynamic that's going on in this ecosystem right now. That's like, you can't even like really describe it. It's so fresh and so new because it's not the business as usual model. It's totally different than what we've seen our current economic system produce. And so it's really strange for, I think, all of us. It's a interesting question that you're asking, and I think a lot of us are asking that same question. But I think for those that are young, let's try to support one another, even if we're competition, right? In as many ways as we can. I know we get, like, I feel like I haven't done enough with holistic systems, and we've known each other for a long enough time that I should be doing more with you. But I've been busy with so many other things. But I just want to see you grow and see you produce something, and then I want to be able to be there when maybe I can be, an uncle to something that you're creating, or you could be an uncle to something that I'm creating. And I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Once we get to a certain part, we're all going to help raise each other, but let's really help each other be the source for the thing that we're creating, and support each other. And you being that source, Rob, you being that source, Christine, for Circletrust, and then let's try to figure out how we try to raise each other's children and babies that we've been creating for a little while. That's my weird thought of how it's coming to be.
Daddy Joshua. That's out of you coming out of, like, the nurturing side, it feels like.
Yeah, no, I think we just gotta, there's this part of my own personal work has been to manifest the right people in my life that I could deeply try to help them accomplish their dreams, and they deeply try to help me accomplish my dreams, right? And so we're in that type of friendship and relationship, and that's what we're really trying to do. And if I can manifest that, and it means that we're all really kind of coming together. But I think in a lot of ways, I think we're all trying to do that in this space. It's just really hard to navigate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, because say we get together and you've got your idea now, and then we've got these ideas here, and there's a couple of ideas there. Like, at what point do we make decisions where we say, well, this idea, like 60% of that is perfect, 10% is okay, but the rest maybe not. But then let's take 40% from here, and then 70% from that one, and then at what point do we make those choices? I wonder, like in this endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. What was it that helped you to get with Roots? What's Roots?
Yeah, Roots Cooperative.
Roots Cooperative.
Yeah, I know it is kind of fascinating, right? Because it's like, in some ways I'm like, oh, how do we do this? And in some ways, right there, like if I step back for a moment, oh, there are ways where it is happening, or we are doing it. Yeah. And I think, yeah, Roots Cooperative and Holistic Systems Cooperative is a great example, because we sort of meet all these, great endeavors and asking these questions. And for whatever reason, it was just so like quick and simple and easy. And, and it was just like, oh yeah, we're just building the same thing. It was just like, we're doing the same thing. Let's just join together. Right. And we had like a couple meetings, and it's like, oh no, these are like the real, these folks are the real deal. And that's it. So, in a way, maybe it's, just patience. Sometimes patience is not my strong suit. So it's good to get that reminder. Yeah.
I would agree with that. Like for me, I think all of it's been patience in a lot of ways. It's like been really slow. Maybe some of it could have been faster, and I held it up because of my fears of like diving deeper into relationship with others. I've been working with Evolute 6 it was small little projects for quite a while, like almost probably 2.5 years now, I think. And now we're actually like really doing a lot, right? So it didn't, we gelled really quickly, but we didn't do a lot until, 2 years into what we've been, it's only been like 6 months now, I think, that we've like really started to do a lot more together. And we're having lots of different projects come together. And then with Caraco, it's been hard. Like it's been each relationship is different, right? And I think that's kind of the way we got to look at it. And it's about timing. It's about, I think, almost, I can't even put it into words, but it's about like not being really adaptive, I guess the right word, and emergent with it, I think is probably the right, to answer your question, Christine, or curiosity around that, is like what is coming alive, and what are the heat maps that are coming. Like I think this Coherence 2025 is like, I put more strength and effort into it for that reason, because it was like, it just seemed to like start to gel with everything else that I was doing. And so I latched onto it more as a way for me to collaborate and work with others, and then to build together. And I think that's happening for this meta community as well. I don't know. So it's about patience, but also like allowing for the emergent work to come in.
We could make some easeful choices. Like we could, if we work out that your roadmap looks like this over the next 3 years, and then what we have is available now, and then what that might look like in 3 years. There could be some ways to make more easeful choices at certain points, where, say, you just look at our tools and you're like, look, I know a bunch of people who would love that. And then like that cycles through your connections. And then that could also be like, you could be almost like a referrer for us and receive like benefit back to you because of that. Like that would be like a bare minimum type of relationship. And then like it could flow from that into other things, right? Where like we could coordinate a bunch of Circletrusts within a bioregion and get really granular with like each user not necessarily that like business scope level that you're looking at, but we're looking at more of like each individual person and like how they're using their account, how they're making connections with other people, how they're forming. Like, so it is, there's different scopes there that I think could be very complementary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's probably some really easy and practical, just within us. I think I'm noticing like that's why I wanted to invite you into the coherence conversations. But then also the other piece was there's got to be the way that we can collaboratively work together, maybe even create the same thing together in that. And so that's, I think it's our next step. I would love to do the AI piece with you. Yeah, I think to kind of hopefully put a bow on this conversation and kind of move us into the next steps. Let's plan on having that experiment of you taking what we have, like our databases and things that we're building out. It's very all over the place, so we'll have to see how you would like to see that organized to be able to.
Maybe just some core documents. Like, do you have like white paper type info?
We do, but they get so outdated within every like rendition of what we're building. Like within a month, they're almost completely outdated, right? So we don't update them nearly as quickly as things are happening within the organization, as most, I think, organizations early stage are in the same way. So I'd like to see, I might even want to just add some of like the really raw stuff that we're building and see if AI can like put some context to it with the white paper, of course, right?
Yeah, I like to ask like for experimental assessments when I put in my little prompts. Try to get that edginess there.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a great next step for us. And to kind of close us off on this conversation, I would love to just ask, what are of the organizations that you're wanting to partner with, like a hope and a prayer, or like we're really close to this person, but we would love some additional. So part of my Coherence 2025 is like, who else are you wanting to bring in as a project? Who would you like to see as a co-steward in Coherence 2025, and why, as kind of our ending, so we can see what other ways that we can weave a network into this really interesting Coherence. What are we calling it? It's like a asynchronous conference of sorts, right? So maybe Bob, you can go first, and then Christine.
Sure. Yeah, and one piece I just want to say, I really like what you were talking about as far as you're speaking to like babies and uncles, and right. I think that's a really good kind of imagery, for like family, and reminded me, for a couple of years I was living in a co-housing community. So I don't know if you're familiar with those, but yeah, and so yeah, it feels like, right, that might be a nice image, for me to hold, with this, is a group of people who are sort of committing to living together and as a neighborhood in a different way, right? And really being connected and in some ways, responsible for each other and creating relationships, even though, you're not going to have like, the most close personal relationship with, each with every, household in the co-housing community. And so, and you're, things are deepening as they go. So I just wanted to bring that kind of image in. Yeah, I mean, one comes to mind because it's very, relevant right now. One of the, economic mechanisms that we're utilizing, one of the main ones in holistic systems is called commitment pooling. And that's, was created by Will Ruddick and grassroots economics. And we're really, at this point now where we're kind of figuring out, how to actually, how to move forward with that and kind of combining, what it is that we're doing and how to utilize that framework. So, yeah, so I just want to bring bring that in, right, and bring grassroots economics in as an amazing, organization, and the framework and the model is just, I mean, it's just really beautiful. Yeah, it's just, and I think, it's really, it's world changing. So, yeah, that's one that, I don't know if they're already, sort of involved in coherence, or somebody has, asked them to, for one of these sessions or not, but that's my, entry.
I haven't heard anybody asking them to join in, so maybe we need to reach out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone yesterday was saying to me, I explained the commitment pooling and these other types of alternative like community economy mechanisms, and they were like, I don't think like Americans will be able to do that. Like they're just like, this is too different for them. And because he's trying to like think of ways to bring people in like through like gamification and like trying to like appeal to people like where they're at, and not like challenge the mindset. And I think that's an interesting part of coherence, is that like we've identified that there's a triad of culture, consciousness, and technology. And like I think for people like us, we might forget that we're really going for like the big shift, like the big consciousness shift, the big like culture shifts. And and then when we like say engage with other people who are like just aiming for like to meet like say like mainstream American culture where it's at, there's a it's different. I just mentioned that. So for me, at this point in time, I'm thinking about Core One. I honestly think that I don't know if it would be me developing this personal relationship because I'm already so like entwined, but if Alex or like someone else wanted to, I think it could be like an endless source of invitees to coherence because of the type of people who are coming in there, especially as like the beta group, beta cohort, and like it's people like I've seen, is it Clement from Scobie? Like he's actually involved with like conversations with Hank. Like there's crossovers already. I think I even saw Alelo in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I have just a sense that there's a connection there, but I don't know what it is yet. But just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have them on my list to reach out again and bring them into another conversation for coherence. So they're on my list as well to bring them in. So they're one of mine that I would hope to chat with for coherence. And then for me, I would love to do One Earth. So I keep on saying that. But One Earth on the bioregional side, we really like to see them come in, and they've been doing a lot of great work trying to identify and help organize around bioregions in unique ways. And they've been getting funding. I'm also I want to bring them in even more, but Hilo, I want to make sure Hilo is also coming in. Maybe I know they're as a project right now, but I would love them to kind of co-steward some things because Tibet is also organized the collaborative technology alliance as well. And so like Murmurations is already a part of this Murmurations is a project within this already. And I interviewed Ollie from Murmurations, the Murmurations project, right? And Murmurations is also a part of collaborative tech. So it's like we're all intertwined and interconnected, but we're maybe not showing the best representation of that connection, those connections quite yet, because we're also really small in coherence. Yeah, so I thank you for this wonderful time that we've gotten to spend on. Christine, you're on the other side of the world. Rob, we're still in the same America's continent, right? But we're at distance, and so it's really cool to see that there's this collaboration happening all over the world with different organizations doing very similar work. So we know that it's tangible, it's there, and we're bringing it forward. Thank you so much, and looking forward to the connections that you're bringing into coherence. and the work that we're doing together. I want to see that those next steps happen as well. Any last words, Christine, Rob?
No, I feel complete. It's juicy.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you. Just thank you, you both. And yeah, it's such a pleasure. Absolutely. And really, always uplifting to me.
For those listening, if you want more of this, there's lots of other projects out there. We're talking to lots of different folks. I mentioned a few that we've had conversations with. Go to coherence.tv for the website. You can join us as a co-steward, or you can join us as a project if you have a project. You can define and understand what those two are, what they mean. If you want to be co-stewarding with us, there's a little bit more engagement involved. A project is just someone that's out there wanting to get their project out and talk to others and maybe collaborating with others. And with that, there's also the YouTube channel. So share these videos with others. If you know someone that's doing work like this and that wants to be working with others, share these interviews is a good way to be able to do that. And our YouTube channel is Coherence 2025, I think that's it. So thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you on the next interview with Coherence 2025. Ciao.